Hey, everybody. All right. As far as I know, I think we're good. Big Daddy Kane, what's up? What's happening?
You got it, Ari. How are you, man?
I'm great, man. I'm glad we're doing this. Shout out to Rock the Bells, to LL, to you, to everyone. A lot been going on, and I'll just get formalities out of the way. Those who know, but those who don't, my name's Ari Melber. I work as a journalist at MSNBC News. I host The Beat. Big Daddy Kane has been on The Beat, which we love. In fact, we remember the people who came through early. Like, we've been on 4 years now, but you were there early on showing love. And that's me. You need no introduction. It's Big Daddy Kane. Old school, new school, back in the day, no half stepping or verses. If anyone's watching going, well, maybe you didn't catch Big Daddy Kane because you weren't born yet. I know you saw him on verses and everything else. So thanks for doing this, man.
No, glad to be a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let's start with how you're feeling about hip hop today. We'll get into everything, but how are you feeling about hip hop with COVID and crazy times, but a lot of folks having between verses and D Nice and time at home to take it in. I feel like there's been a lot of culture going on.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I believe that this whole COVID situation made it where everyone had a chance to really stop and think and really reassess their life. And for some, it has worked out amazingly. D Nice, Cassidy, Swiss Beats, it's worked out amazingly. And I think that things are a lot different because now we're starting to get back to semi-normal or a new normal, whichever one you choose. And things are changing, there are all the restrictions now with venues, where you have to either be vaccinated or take a COVID test 48 hours prior to the engagement. So a lot of things are changing, and it's hey, it is what it is until it ain't what it ain't, man.
Hey, that's fact check true. I mean, and I'll tell everyone in here, this is the host and reporter in me. If you're catching us, you could be catching us from the Rock the Bells page or from my page because I posted that we're doing this. But this is Rock the Bells doing a shout out to hip hop history through the different eras. And when we have this sort of living history, it's a pretty special opportunity because some of these things they go by and not everyone's around. And then you have these legends. I've enjoyed it again, I'm a reporter, but I'm also a big hip hop fan. And as a hip hop head,
We know.
Watching the intergenerational has been amazing. And watching, for example, with verses with you and KRS are legends. And I don't mean that like you're old or something. I just mean you did legendary work and continue to do it in a way that's laid the foundation. So in the spirit of what Rock the Bell said, which is they said, I don't know why, but they said, we're doing the 90s. We're doing 90 to 99. Let's start with, what did that era feel like at the time? What did it mean to you? What was 90 to 99?
90 to 99, I think, was a great time period in hip hop. It was the end of that golden era, transitioning into that I guess well, I don't know the right word to use for like that strong defining era, I guess.
Sure.
Where the 90s is when hip hop, I think, really had its legs strong. Because, you had people that were doing hip hop, at the park jams and things of that nature. But now it's entering into the music world where it's actually becoming a genre. And I think by the mid 90s, it was figured out. There was enough people working at record companies that understood hip hop, you know, because like when I came out and artists like LL came out, you know, it was the type of thing where, you know, you're dealing with a major label and the last song they work might have been from Cameo or Stephanie Mills, you know, or Shaka Khan, you know. So they didn't really understand hip hop. By the 90s, you had a lot of, you know, cats that was familiar with hip hop working at labels and things of that nature. And production wise, things were kind of figured out because a lot of stuff that we sampled in the 80s, we didn't even know we had to clear because we were so used to just rhyming over it at a park jam. You know, the DJ come
Yeah.
break your rhyme over it. So you go in the studio and, you know, you say, hey, Marley Marl, sample this. You know, and you do what you did at the park jam. We didn't know that we had to clear it and, you know, or the legalities to it, you know. By the 90s, that was understood. And then you had artists like Dr. Dre, Timbaland, and many others that knew how to really create production from scratch, you know, going back to what Larry Smith and Rick Rubin was doing, you know.
Yeah. Well, like Biz Markie said, you know, all samples cleared. There was a period of time where that wasn't automatic.
Yeah, we didn't know. It wasn't like
Right.
we were trying to be disrespectful and take anyone's music. We just didn't know because we at the park jams, you know, you throw on good times, and
Yeah.
when the break come, we rhyme it over it. You know, so
Yeah.
we didn't know. We had to go to Nile Rodgers and clear it. You know.
Mm-hmm. And so, again, as we shout out to Rock the Bells, are talking about this history and understanding our living history and also giving due because some of this stuff can get easily just run out, run past. What was a night or a moment where you realize this thing you're doing, it's got a following, it's touching people, it's more than maybe it started out just really organic, true, and fun, but whoa, this is more than that. Do you have a memory from that in that 90s period?
In the 90s, I would say um, Jay-Z bringing Michael Jackson on stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Where was that?
I don't remember exactly where, but
New
I
York
can't
or
remember.
somewhere else? You don't know?
I believe it was New York. Yes, I believe it was New York. It probably could have been the Garden. But it was during the tour that they filmed. But I mean, you know, Jay-Z bringing Michael Jackson on stage, like that's when you know, okay, hip hop has something that everybody wants to be a part of, even the king. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, like yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's wild. Uh, when you look at the role of specifically black men in an art form that, of course, does have women and is expanded in gender and expanded today, but explicitly black men, what did it mean for black men to tell their own story in a music, a culture, and a politics, frankly, that often disappears that story, at least as hearing it directly?
I think that it's very important because throughout history, it's always the case where someone else is telling our story. You
Mm.
know, someone else is speaking or representing the culture of black people. So when it's the type of thing where you can actually document what growing up was like, what your neighborhood was like, what the streets was like, in you know, for your life, or document where you came from to where you went. You know, being able to
Mm-hmm.
document that from your own words, I think that that's so much better. You know, because of just the way that, you know, we have a way of telling a story. You know, a way that we tell a story that basically transcends to us. You know, so I mean, I think that yeah, that's something that's very important and very necessary because throughout the years, you know, it's always been someone else telling our story. You know,
Respect.
rather rather
Yeah.
rather rather it's about the streets or it's about someone's success. You know,
Yeah. Respect. Um, who were your inspirations at that time?
inspirations for
I would say for emceeing, like where you look around, because
oh
nowadays, so many artists look. I always find it interesting as a fan. I see artists and other people who are just interested who were born after Pac passed, and they see him as an inspiration. So they did their homework, or they you see the clips go around. And obviously, we have media now in different ways, or someone like Jay-Z, who's obviously still here. When you were coming up, people might forget From what I understand, you didn't have a whole generation of people with equity or showing how to do it in the business. It could be a shady business, showing how to be an MC and handle it. So I'm just curious, like, who were you looking to at that time?
Oh well, for stuff like that, like learning how to be successful as an artist. I was talking to Barry White, Rick James,
Mm.
um, Jalil from Houdini had told me a whole lot of stuff, that they had been through, in the early 80s. Because I didn't, my first album didn't come out to 88. So they was telling me about a lot of stuff they went through in the early 80s. But that's who I was really like listening to, taking advice from as far as, maintaining and, staying successful, cats like that. There was other artists that I listened to that influenced me as an MC. But as far as, on the business side, I would say Rick James, Barry White,
Mm.
and Jalil from Houdini.
Very interesting. And that's why, that's why asking the question is key, because here I'm thinking of MCs, but at that point in time, generationally, you're looking at people who are the foundation, but they might be soul, they might be R&B adjacent. Um, who were your peers that you looked at and were like, oh, I didn't know we could do that? Like nowadays, you've got artists who are more emotional, like Kid Cudi, or the singing that goes on, which is a different energy. Was there anyone where you looked around the '90s and were like, oh, we're doing that? We could do that. I guess we could do anything.
I guess the first person that really struck me that way was probably Hammer,
Mm.
because like I remember Hammer opening up for me somewhere in Texas, and then I remember like probably less than a year, I was opening up for him. You know,
That's life. We all have
you
versions of
know,
that, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I just didn't get it. I'm like, he's different than what I'm used to listening to, but I don't get it. I don't see it. And then the Can't Touch This video came out, and the day I saw that video, I just sat back and was like, oh, okay, it all makes
Okay.
sense now. I'm like, yeah, this dude think he James Brown. This is amazing. Wow. I mean, it all made sense then. I was like, okay, I get it now. Yeah. So he
Yeah,
was
the
probably the first person.
showmanship.
Hmm.
Also, what other superstar had like your sign language for Too Legit to Quit? You know what I'm saying? Not everybody has signs to go with the chorus, so all the
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
kids can line. Now, that was before TikTok,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How about
um,
that?
and then what about when it was all evolving? Your views or interactions with Pac, the talk about Death Row East, all that kind of stuff. Talk to us about that.
um, well, I got a call from Eric B, and he said, "Yo, Suge and Pac want to meet with you. They get ready to start, Death Row East." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So, I flew out there, went to meet them. We hung out, had dinner, and then they was talking about, you want to go to the Tyson fight? I'm like, I don't care. And then we ended up going to Vegas, and we get to Vegas, get settled in that night.
How'd you get to Vegas?
Uh, I actually rode down with Hammer. I rode down with Hammer. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
And we get to Vegas, and we was talking about doing some music. And then, we just kind of saying, yeah, we should do this, we should do that. And then Suge was like, well, why y'all just sitting there talking about it? Why don't y'all go and fly back and not banging out tonight? So Suge went and got flights for everybody, and we turned right back around and got on the plane and flew back to Death Row to go in the studio and record. And me and Pac, we did a song together called Wherever You Are. I wrote a song for Hammer called What You Gonna Do For Me. And me, Pac, and Hammer recorded a song called Too Late Player. We did all three of those in one night. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
And collaboratively, what was it like being in the room with Pac at the time? He must have been, what, 20, 24?
Pac was a workaholic. Rest in peace to the brother. He was a workaholic, because he sat there, and while I was writing the song for Hammer, he sat and wrote a verse for the song that we was doing together. And then some, I forgot the rap group that he used to work with. I forget their name. They came in there and told him about
Like early, like Digital Underground, or later than that?
Outlaws. I think Outlaws.
Oh,
I
the
believe.
Outlaws. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Outlaws. Yeah. They came in there and told him about Lauryn Hill saying something slick about him, and Mobb Deep and somebody, and then he just sat there and just started writing again, started writing some diss stuff towards them, like he just started writing like right there on the spot, and like I think I saw him write about 3 or 4 songs. Like, cause when I went and had a meeting with Suge, we sat in Suge's office for a long time, came back, Pac was writing something else for another song that he was doing by himself.
Just pen and pad in the studio.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a workaholic for real. I believe that's why we have so much material from that brother,
And just while we stay on that, did you get a feeling for his layers? Because people have different layers. Some people get in a lane and they're in that lane. You could be like your friend is a math accountant. That's his vibe. Every time you talk, he's in that one lane, Some people in the end of the sports, that's the lane. Pac, it was like we had that hard gangster Pac, like you said, trading shots with Havoc and Prodigy. You had the poet Pac. You had the revolutionary Black Panther Pac coming out of his family tradition. There were so many layers, but you were there. We were looking at it as listeners.
Well,
did you see the layers? Yeah, go ahead.
This was a year before his demise. You see what I'm saying? This was 1 year prior. And at that point in time, he was going through something in his life, I guess, that he wanted to change. And we had a real deep conversation about it in the airport and the whole flight from Vegas back to LA. We had a whole deep conversation about it. And what you got to understand is I was one of the type of people that Pac looked up to.
Right.
Because when he first came out, when he was dancing for Digital Underground, when he first came out, I took them on my tour. So that was different. I believe their first tour, Digital Underground, when I took them on my Big Daddy Thing tour. So, that's how long I've known Pac, so that's like, I don't know, 89, 90, somewhere around there. And, I took him on my first tour. So it was the type of thing where he was talking to me about what's going on in his life and what he want to change. So, it was that type of vibe. We were in a real good place. And plus, with the whole Death Row East thing, he was like saying, like, you my hero. I want to make sure that, you get some money. So I really want you to do this. Yeah.
And you said his demise, had he not been murdered, do you think Death Row East was going to continue to be a real thing, or it was too early to tell?
No, I think that it was going to be a real thing. How long it would have lasted, I don't know. I doubt it would have lasted that long, because there was so much crazy stuff going on with Suge, you know. But I do believe it was actually going to be a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a reset when I do these things online. So everyone who's been in here, stay in, because you can hear, we're hearing a lot from Big Daddy Kane, but those who may have joined, my name is Ari Melber from MSNBC. We got the OG Big Daddy Kane. We're on Rock the Bells. What more do you need to know? I will say shout out to people in the room. If you're on IG and you want to put questions in the comment section there, or they have that question feature. I see a couple have come in, and if you guys have questions that are good and thoughtful, I will read them. If they're trash or trolls, I will just ignore them. So I'm just saying, save your time, put in good questions, and I'll throw some at BDK. The other thing I wanted to ask you, now this is a harder question, so I'm not sure if you'll get, no rush, but who is someone that we should know about that we might not know about from the golden age of hip hop? Someone that maybe hasn't gotten enough of their due or flowers, or maybe for whatever other reasons of publishing, but that you knew about back in the day or now. I'd be very curious.
Melle Mel. Melle Mel. because I say that from if you're an MC that started MCing from the Run DMC era on up to the Kanye West, T.I. era, you know, if you started MCing anywhere from like 1979 on up to like I say 2010, the way you rhyme is because of Melle Mel. He is the one that fathered your style. Whether you got Southern slang, West Coast slang, Midwest slang, there's a way and a pattern that you rhyme, and it's all because of Melle Mel. You know, because prior to that, you know, the stuff that like DJ Hollywood, Lovebug Starsky, Eddie Chiba, you know, they all were rhyming like, you know, well, come on, Ari, I'm in the house, and you know it's the place to be. You know, like, and that's the way everybody was rhyming back then. You know, and
Yeah.
Mel was that dude that created a style and a pattern that everyone stuck to, you know. And I mean, even with Super Rapping, the first song they did prior to Freedom, it's like when you listen to Rapper's Delight, you hear 3 MCs just rhyming. You listen to Super Rhyme, it's like there's an intro. They come on introducing themselves back and forth. They go into a routine. Then they break off into their freestyle rhymes. Even like the pattern of a hip hop song, the Furious Five created that. So I'll say that, you know, Melle Mel is someone that really needs to be recognized, and he should really give him a whole lot more attention because of what he did for the culture of rap and MCing.
I love that. The way you put it is so astute and interesting that, of course, these things follow a track. It's just like sometime if you went back far enough, there weren't choruses in any song. There was other types of drums, and then music somebody was like, well, we'll do a chorus. Now things have changed, but almost every genre likes to still use a chorus. Maybe someday that'll evolve in a different way. But like what you're saying about rap, some of us might take it for granted. You know, but yeah, you go back far enough, it has that slower sound and this and that because people hadn't evolved the rhyme style. This is what I'm going to do. I got a question for you about advice, and then I'm going to go into some of the questions we're getting from people because I'm seeing some interesting ones.
Okay.
Best advice you've gotten in music or life? Best advice you've given?
Best advice that I don't know. Yeah, I think the best advice I received it probably came from Barry White. He said, you always got to remember that in this music business, that's 2 words. There's the music, and then there's the business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, that'd probably be the best advice. I think one of with me, some of the best advice I've probably given other artists is that, you know, trying to tell them to stay original and be yourself. Don't follow no trend, because when the trend is gone, you gone.
Right, and people can tell. And you know, it's interesting how some people do so well. I mean, but by which I mean continue to connect. The mediums and technology can change. Streaming is relatively new when you actually think about it. The fact that someone like you and Jay-Z and Lauren and KRS-One, you guys have built and maintained a credibility in the culture and among the music fans because it ain't about the medium. As you just said, people can feel your truth. I mean, you could almost feel it, if you don't mind me complimenting you to your face, but why do it behind your back? You can almost feel it in the timbre of your voice from when you were a young up and coming artist, and we hear those songs and they connect, and the timbre of your voice now. And if somebody didn't know maybe everything about you, they might just go, but it sounds like that guy knows what he's talking about. And it sounds like he's himself. And what is hip hop and music if not truth? So that's shout out to that. Out of the questions here, I'm gonna start digging into people's questions. We've been talking 90s hip hop, talking Big Daddy Kane, inspirations. One of the questions here that's just a fun one is people asking you, who would you like to see in the VERZUZ that hasn't happened yet?
Who would I like to see? I don't know. Either Light and Latifah or the OJs and the Spinners, or the OJs and the Whispers, either or.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do mine respectfully, Dead or Alive. So it's a fantasy, but I would go Jay-Z, Gil Scott-Heron in my fantasy in heaven.
To see the two of them go against each other?
Mm-hmm.
That would be something interesting. I mean, that hasn't been done in verses, with I don't know, how would you categorize Gil Scott-Heron? Jazz, soul?
I'll tell you this, I always thought of him as soul. Recently, I got to interview Clive Davis, who you and a lot of people, of course, know, but for those who don't, has been behind a lot of acts and worked with Whitney and Aretha, worked with Diddy, starting Bad Boy Records. Clive said he thinks of Gil as the first rapper.
Well, I mean, that's what Gil Scott-Heron did. Was more spoken word, like the last poets, Jay-Z, go into that big pimping flow, it's going to change the temperature in the room, so
Spending G's, yeah. I just think about it, man, because I think about, and the verses have been wonderful. We started this conversation talking about how it's so much up and down with COVID, but you have times where people have stopped and reflected. We have the culture and we have this. And so one of the things with verses is just looking at how people engage off each other, right? To me, someone like, Jay-Z, whether he really would do a verses, even if it was against, I don't know, Kanye or someone, would be something, but getting into his lyrical bag, because so much of his stuff is so erudite to me, but he'd have to go up against someone that would be on that level. I think if Jay-Z went up against someone like, I was in person in New York for the Ja Rule Fat Joe. It was about hits. Honestly, to keep it 100, I was like watching it thinking, I forgot how many hits Ja Rule had. Like, so depending on who you're up against, right? I think with KRS, it seemed to also bring out your real original OG, right?
Well, I knew KRS had a bigger catalog than me, So naturally, I had to turn it into, a hip hop thing,
Right. Yeah. Right. So looking again at questions from folks here, we have a question here about, let me just look, because now there's some, you know what happened? Now there's a ton of questions. So one is, I'm just going to pick a couple and then you can kind of react however you want. We'll do more than one. Dr. Zeus is asking, well, what do you think of this mumble rap, as they call it today? This one's really interesting from Goddess. Again, I'm just reading as I go. But to Big Daddy Kane, what does it mean to you that Kendrick Lamar received a Pulitzer Prize, of course, the highest literary prize, and the first rapper, quote unquote, to receive one?
I think that's beautiful.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, and I believe that it really elevates the culture, so it's taking it to a whole nother level, and that's beautiful, and much respect to Kendrick on his win. And as far as the mumble rap go, it's not really something that I listen to, but I respect it because it's the mind state of this younger generation. I would love to see some of the younger cats, even if they want to mumble, make it more lyrical and reflecting more positivity for the next generation of rappers that's coming in. But, I don't try to knock what someone else is doing, because I remember what it was like when I first started, and the older generation didn't understand what I was doing with hip hop. So I don't try to knock nobody's hustle.
Respect. Well, it's funny you said that, and you can't knock the hustle. Hey, but the next question is from...
You can't help that, right?
The next question is from Bronx Harlem Girl, and she asked a question that connects with the style that I think you just shared, which I think is very genuine to you. She said, "How do you stay so humble?" I don't know if that's a hard one to answer, but that's coming in from the comments.
I mean, as an MC, this is something I didn't get into this, to be a millionaire and all that. I got into it because of my love for the culture and to be recognized as a dope MC. And I feel like the level that I made it to in my career and the success that I've been able to maintain for these many decades is because of my fan base and my supporters. So therefore, I'm humbled and honored by them sticking with me, riding with me this long, so I have nothing but respect for anybody, saying that's willing to listen to what I have to say, and since I know that you're listening, I'm gonna try to drop a jewel on you and, give you what's real.
Yeah, that's interesting because, I think about that because as a journalist, I get to interview different kinds of people, and some people you see they made it there with just the hustle and the spirit and the confidence, and that takes them there. It seems like if that's all they have, meaning that's their main energy or fuel, that's harder to maintain over longevity. When you see people who have the longevity, whether that's in this field of music, other arts, business, politics, sometimes what you notice is a weird balance. There's a confidence mixed with an appreciation or a spirit or a humility, and that's a duality. They don't need to be at war. You got to be confident to get up in front of 10,000 people. Some people aren't just going to feel like they could do that. So there's something in you that has that. But then the other stuff you just shared is also what's grounding you, or maybe keeping you from experiencing the lows as too low.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, yes, I'm very confident, but at the same time, I'm humbled by the way things are.
Yeah. I'm looking at some people's other questions and comments, so thanks to all of you who are sort of sending those in, which is kind of the funny thing. Like when I do TV interviews, we don't know what anyone's thinking, and here you get this immediate people weighing in, which is fun and interesting. James Selimiv, I hope I'm saying that right. Is there a word for the ways that old school MCs harmonize and accented each other's lyrics?
The way MCs harmonize in the accent of
the way they harmonized and sort of accented their lyrics. Like I think, and I don't know if there is, but I think the way that sometimes you put something on and it's from like 88 and 91 or like that sound, but maybe there isn't a word for it. I don't know.
I mean, I'm a tad bit confused if when he says harmonize. I mean, there was a thing that that hip hop groups did called harmonizing.
Mm-hmm.
When they're all kind of like singing the same words at the same time in a melodic rhythm, they called it harmonizing.
Mm-hmm. Another question here, we touched on some of this, but someone just asked point blank, what's your favorite live performance you can remember?
My favorite live performance that I can remember, there's actually two. There's that James Brown's performance when he got the red jumpsuit on. I don't know exactly where he was, but they made a DVD of it and everything. But whatever that performance was, that's probably my number one, and my number two would be the Budweiser Superfest in 1993 with Levert in Ohio. Because because there was a part of the show where Gerald Levert and Sean Levert would be on different sides of the stage, and then they'd run together in the middle of the song when it break down, and they like, I want to shout it out, tell the world, and they'd be doing it back walking. One night in Cleveland, as they was running, Gerald tripped and stumbled about 20 feet before he could catch himself, before he fell. He caught himself just in time and made it there to Sean. And instead of saying, I want to shout it out, and Sean saying, tell the world, Gerald said, I almost bust my ass. And Sean said, yes, you did. And I was like, yo, the crowd just went crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, that moment did it for me. Yeah.
Right. And you see that people are in the moment right? They're in it. They're not just running it back.
Yeah, not the crowd went crazy. Ecstatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is related, but I'm curious. Again, we're here with Rock the Bells. This is a hip hop history project, and showing love to a lot of the greats, including Big Daddy Kane, who's given us his time and thoughts. Um, is there a night or a day where you really had to pinch yourself, like, wow, this is where I'm at. This is my company. This is the peers. This is the room I'm in. Is there anything like that, whether it's hip hop or just life in general? Because we've covered, hip hop has brought some artists in contact with presidents and other moments. But I'm just in general. Has there ever been a moment like that where you really said, wow, okay, this is where hip hop took me into this moment?
Yeah. When I did Feels Like Another One, for Patti LaBelle, and I'm sitting there in the studio, and she just walks in with all this here food. She had baked some fish for me, made collard greens, mac and cheese, and all this stuff, and pulled some hot sauce out of her purse. And I'm sitting there like, yo, if I would have told somebody a story like this, a few years ago, they would have just been sitting there like,
Please,
come on,
yeah,
come on, son, come on, son. Like this is unbelievable. I was like, wow. Like I couldn't wait to leave out of there and call my moms and tell her what had just happened. Yeah,
yeah.
like that was one
I
of those
love that.
moments.
I love that. Well, before I get to the last question, you tell me, is there anything that we didn't hit or that we should have hit or that you want to hit?
Nah, I mean, I don't. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you ball out, and then I'm gonna ask you a question or two.
Okay. Okay. Well, my last that's cool. That's fair. My last question for you then is, and this is sort of, it's hip hop, but it's also philosophical. Um, it's human nature that we focus on what we're missing, and that we know that that's partly survival. If you're at the campfire and there's tons of food, but you're running out of water, the whole village is going to start trying to find the water. So at a survival level, we know why that happens. But sometimes we get to this point, we're in this modern era where we have so much. I mean, I remember, and I don't mean to sound like my dad or an old head, but I remember saving up to buy one CD and
Mm-hmm.
listening to it a ton, right? Trading it with someone else for their CD. Before that, tapes, records. Before that, it was even harder. But today,
That's
it's
true.
like, it does change things when I see people and it's like, well, you have everything. So, oh, that new album's trash. Really? What'd you think of the 10th song? Oh, I didn't get that far. Oh, you didn't even finish the album? Because when I was a kid, and people, if they know me at all, know I was behind music. So, metaphysically, philosophically, when you look out at hip hop today, young people today, even the world today, what is it that you think we might be taking for granted because we're so focused on the next thing we're missing, given the arc of the life you've had? I put that kind of big final question to you.
You kind of answered it a little bit. We're missing out on today.
Mm.
We're missing out on today. Because we're so busy chasing tomorrow a lot. It's the type of thing where back in the days, there's probably stuff from school that you still remember. From social studies, math, whatever, you still remember because you had to read it out of a textbook, memorize it, do it for homework, bring it in, do a report on it, stuff like that. Now, whatever it is that you need to find out about, you Google, and as far as it goes with music, it's just so many artists that the lifespan of an album might be 3 weeks.
Mm.
If you're real famous, the lifespan, what I'm saying, might be
That's
3
messed up.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. A new artist, he lucky if he get a good weekend, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's too much music coming at you from all angles, on all types of different platforms, and it's coming from everywhere. So it's like it's like you're no longer shopping in a boutique, you in the flea market now, So it's just it's just so much going on where you don't really get a chance to really sit down, consume something, enjoy it, live it, because
Yeah.
nothing touches me more than hearing someone tell me that my music got them through high school, or they was in the service and my music got them through their tour while they were overseas. You know, stuff like that touches me, because now it's deeper. Like whatever it meant to me, it meant even more to you. You see?
Yeah. I love that. Well, while you said, I just wrote that down. We're so busy chasing tomorrow, we're missing out on today. It might be that you're good with bars. I don't know. what what else did you want to ask before I let you go? Because I appreciate your time.
Like, when did you start listening to hip hop?
14, I went to Garfield High School, which is Quincy Jones School, Quincy Jones Auditorium, public high school in Seattle. Jimi Hendrix went there. And I just remember I was into music already, and Seattle had that vibe. And I grew up in an artistic household. My parents had the big records, the Sly and the Family Stone, and I remember all that. But it was in high school at 14 where I remember getting the Fugees to score, and then Wu-Tang was going on, and then it was Pac and Biggie, and then it just expanded from there. And when you keep going deeper into something and it keeps giving back, to me, I'm the type of person that makes me want to go even deeper. Sometimes you go into something and eventually you hit the edge or the wall of it, and you feel like you got what you came for. But for me, hip hop, reggae, rock and roll, jazz are things where I've never hit that. If I find that wall, fine, but I never have. To me, the sustenance continues.
Okay, one more. Did you ever in your life try to become a rapper?
I like especially how you asked the question. I never tried to become a rapper. It was a high school environment, and I know people who know these kind of schools where like everybody would like rap a little. Like there was like it was that kind of school, like ciphers, freestyles at parties that were kind of but more of as a joke, rapping at assemblies. That was the spirit. So anyone from 206 from Seattle would know, but I bet a lot of other schools, people know that energy. That's why, like, I'm from Seattle. Every so often I get in Brooklyn, people are like, but aren't you from New York? You got to be from New York. I'm not. But if they're getting that energy, it's probably because that was some of the milieu that might be a little bit like some other schools or environments. But I am not a wannabe or failed MC. I would say I'm more of a student.
No. I don't mean like as far as like, you know, you tried it and you failed. I mean like, you know, was
Like
it
I
like
went out
just,
to LA to like get a deal. No.
no. I mean just like like you getting in on a lunchroom cipher, or you know, in a bathroom, you know, rap cipher or something like that. You
Yeah,
know.
I would say, but it's very important that I say this in the context. It was a high school where people were ciphering at the party or at the cafeteria, and in a group setting, maybe in that group setting. But it was not like me at 20 or 25 in New York trying to get a deal.
No. I meant, you know, I meant like in the teen years,
Yeah,
because
yeah, I
you
feel
said
you.
you said you was 14 when you first really got into it, when you
Yeah,
first
yeah, yeah.
embraced it. Yeah. So what was the rap name?
Never got that far. Never got that far. That's what I mean. Like if it was like that. But it is funny because you look with now the kids coming up, like there's no lost tapes from me. Don't worry. Thank God. But now the kids coming up, you can see like Jack Harlow is a rapper who's still pretty young. He's in his 20s, but there's YouTube videos of him when he was like 11. I saw Donald Glover. I guess he was 19 or something, but it was not like him trying to make a music video. It was literally him in a college hallway or something. And it's just funny to get, this younger generation here. It's me and you talking about it, which is kind of funny. And I'm flattered you're even that interested to ask, but it's like, that's it. This next generation, it's like they're going to have the video clips of everything.
Okay, so I don't need to know your personal business, but your middle name, what letter does it start with?
N, Ari Melber.
All right. So everybody on Rock the Bells, I need y'all to do me a favor. I want y'all to put up what we think Ari hip hop name should be. I'm leaning towards Young AM.
Young AM, Young AM.
I'm leaning towards Young AM.
I feel that.
But y'all put up what y'all think his name should be. We got to give him his hip hop name.
There you go. And I'll tell you what, because we went so long, Rock the Bells can clip just this part and put it out as a street challenge. Someone called me, this is more on the news side, but Bun B said, we're going to call you King Quotable because you just find the quote.
Yeah.
But anything with Young is good, man.
No, King Quotable that's perfect, And I appreciate what you do for the culture, brother.
Thank
for real.
You, sir.
I appreciate what you do.
That means a lot coming from you, and that's likewise. So I think Rock the Bells is streaming this in more than one place. So everyone, you can follow Rock the Bells, follow Big Daddy Kane. Again, I'll be signing off as Ari Melber from MSNBC. We'll look at the comments. We'll reply to people. Appreciate this hip hop, his living history. Yes, sir.
Young AM.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Young AM. If BDK said it, that's the end of that. Young AM signing off. I appreciate you, man, and thank you, everybody.
Much respect.
Peace.